Hi everyone, this is Christina Brown in Tallahassee, coming live on behalf of the Florida School of Holistic Living. I want to thank everyone for being here today. We are going to be discussing tea blending in honoring of the herb of the month, which is peppermint. So just to get started, give you a little bit of background about myself. I've been studying herbalism for about 4 years, studying tea specifically for 6 years. I did go through the Florida School of Holistic Living's program, so going through Roots of Herbalism, the Family Herbalist program, and the Community Herbalist program. So highly recommend for anyone out there. Today we're going to be talking about one blend that I have created with peppermint in mind specifically to help enjoy during this upcoming season of winter. So if you have just some housekeeping things, anything I discuss regarding peppermint or tea blending, it's my opinion. Please do not accept it as medical advice. And if there are any questions, feel free to shoot them as you think about them, and we can answer them towards the end of the presentation. So for the next few minutes, I'm going to do a brief overview of peppermint and then go into tea blending and why I chose to use the herbs I did in creating this blend. So peppermint is in the Lamiaceae family. It's Metha paprida. And so how you know peppermint is besides the fragrance. So if you ever smelled peppermint or if you ever had like spearmint gum, they all, even though it's not necessarily peppermint, it all has the same flavor or scent. And fun fact, even if you think about the candy canes, it historically was made with peppermint, and the shape was chosen to attract kids. So with peppermint, you can identify it by its square stems. So all herbs in the mint family have square stems, and they have opposite leaves. So that is the easiest way to identify any plant in the mint family. Outside of that, it is one that is used for many purposes. My family derived from Barbados. So in the Caribbean, it's used for during colds or if you have a cough. It can be used to help in aiding digestion, which is a popular use of it. So it's not foreign in many cultures where mint would be consumed after meals to help in aiding the digestion of the meal that was just consumed. It can also help with rheumatism, as well as given to young babies as well. So when they have those tummy aches, having a little bit of peppermint tea can assist them with that same digestion that we seek when we use it. In some cultures, like in Brazil, they may use peppermint to assist with headaches or general inflammation in general, as well as asthma. So those are just some of the fun uses. I do encourage you, if you are interested in anything regarding peppermint, to do some extensive research prior to using it or as a remedy for yourself. And also from a nutritional point, it does contain calcium, magnesium, and potassium. So in talking about tea blending and peppermint in general, peppermint is a cooling herb. So when you consume it, whether if you take it directly, if you drink it in a tea, normally you can feel refreshed after drinking it. So you drink it and you'll start feeling your body cool down. So it does make it a nice herb to have in the summertime. Ironically, even though it's a cooling herb, it's recommended to drink hot versus cold because of the potency of the infusion or decoction if you choose to make it a decoction with other herbs. The active constituent within peppermint, so here is some dried and blended peppermint, is menthol. So with that, it inhibits the nerves that react to painful stimuli. So it is something that you can use as well if you are experiencing any pain and are trying to help in encouraging the body to cool down. It is, as you know, when your body is in some type of pain, the body generally warms up and it goes into the mode to try to fix the issue. So this can help in soothing that part of the process. Outside of that, with tea blending, there are several things that you want to consider. So one being the energetics of the blend that you're creating. So if I know that peppermint is cooling, I want to be cognizant that I'm trying to, if my goal is to create a tea to cool the body, I want to be aware of what other herbs that I'm putting in to create that environment within the blend prior to consuming. If I know that a herb is drying and I have a dry constituency, I may want to choose another herb that is moist to balance out that drying factor. Then you want to consider the purpose of the blend. So what are you trying to do? Are we trying to cool the body? Then we want to use a certain amount of herbs to help in that factor. If you're trying to awaken, peppermint is one that, even though it's cooling, can help in energizing the body. Then I may want to match that with other herbs that are also energizing, versus matching it with herbs that might encourage you to go to sleep at night, right? So if you were to mix mix peppermint with chamomile, the body may be confused as to what purpose you're trying to fulfill if one is supposed to be soothing and the other one is supposed to be energizing. Another thing to consider is what part of the plant you're using for your tea blends. So peppermint, for peppermint, we generally use the aerial part, so we're going to use the leaf. So the amount of time that I would steep this for a tea, or how I prepare it, may be different than if I was using various roots. So if I have a root heavy blend and then I'm adding an aerial part, we want to consider, is one going to overcome the other? Am I utilizing the best herbs together to extract the majority of the medicinal properties of these herbs? And then lastly, taste. We want to make sure it tastes good. So it's great to have something that can fulfill our purpose, but when it tastes good, you're more likely to use it over and over again, versus if it's something that doesn't give you pleasure, it becomes a task to be healthy, right? So for the blend that I'm doing today, I am making what I call winter sunshine, and this is what the final product will look like. Oh, lovely. But in it, I'm using 5 different herbs. So peppermint, of course, is one, because it is cooling, but it's also energizing and stimulating. So my intent with winter sunshine is, in the morning time, when I wake up and I want to have my cup of tea, I want something that's going to bring vibrancy to my day, something that's going to give me energy without having to rely on caffeine, but also just bring a little bit of happiness and joy to it. Wintertime is when our days are shorter, it's colder outside, Florida cold, but it's still cold. And I want something that's gonna not just warm me up, but really more so warm up my spirits more than anything. So I have peppermint that I will use. And then I also will am using orange slices. So what I did was I took some locally grown oranges, sliced them up, and I dehydrated the entire orange. So normally, you'll read that people will dehydrate just the skin of the orange or the peel of the orange. But I was interested really in using the entire orange because I know that oranges are naturally sweet. And I'm looking for a way of sweetening my tea without having to add whether honey or sugar. So for me, it's just one less step, and it's also just being creative and being resourceful with what's growing around me. Oranges are also cooling, and they're also energizing. So taking that in mind, in my purpose in my tea is something that can lift my spirits and be energizing as a morning tea. Orange slices were ideal for me. And it also helps that they're also, we're harvesting them around this time of the year. So in theming it with peppermint, I'm also trying to make sure I'm eating seasonally as well. The next herb is calendula flowers. So calendula is cooling as well, but it's also drying. But what I like about calendula, because at this point we have 3 cooling herbs, but what I really like about calendula is that it's just vibrant. The flowers are vibrant. The energy of the flower is vibrant. And so again, me looking for something to uplift spirits, it was one that I wanted to add because of the energy of the flower. Then I have lemon balm. So lemon balm is also cooling, but my primary purpose in using lemon balm is that it is supports the nervous system. So knowing that caffeine can at times just overwork the nervous system. It's great to wake us up, but then there's times when you may feel too jittery, or maybe you can't focus, or you're antsy because you may have overconsumed caffeine. I wanted to balance out the energies with something that may just be a little bit calming. So it's not going to put me to sleep, but what it's going to do is just support the nervous system, support my stress levels so that way I don't become overly stressed, and really just balance out the energy of all of these things that are uplifting, right? My apologies, everyone, for those technical difficulties. So I want to go back a step just to make sure that we did review lemon balm, and the purpose of me including lemon balm in the tea blend is because it supports the nervous system. So from what we've discussed, I have peppermint, which is energizing. I have dried oranges, which is energizing, and then I have calendula, which can be energizing. So with that, I don't want to be jittery or be overly energized. So I'm adding lemon balm because it does support the nervous system, and it helps support stress levels, helps support with depression. So going into these shorter days when we're more likely to be a little bit under the spirits, I guess, just a little sad, this is just going to help you bring vibrancy, but in a different form. So instead of it just being energizing, like the other ones, it's just going to support those emotions more than anything. And also balance out the energies because I don't want everything to be leaning towards one direction. So the last herb that I'm including in the blend is ginger. So of course, ginger is my plant ally. I founded the Ginger Tea Company, which is really my version of herbal remedies, tea blends specifically with the intent of them being tasty and healthy for the physical being, the mental being, emotional being. So ginger is my favorite, and I do try to include it when I can. The dried ginger is actually hot. So compared to cooling, ginger's not warm, but it's hot. So I know that it's going to bring a lot of heat in my blend, and I have the other 4 herbs to just bring that down so that way it is actually balanced. It's one thing when it's fresh, ginger will be warm, but when they dry it, it does increase the level of heat that it can generate in the body. So with that, ginger is also energizing as well. It's a great tea to have in the morning. It's a great tea to have if you're sick. So all 5 of the ingredients that I'm using in my blend were intentionally chosen, not necessarily for taste, but because of the energetics that they carry, because of the medicinal properties that they have, nutritional value, and then because I want it to taste good. So that's the last of it. Now, another thing to consider when you're tea blending is proportions. So if I was to put an equal amount of these herbs in my blend, what I may find is one ingredient may overpower another one. So ginger has a very strong taste, and if it's not blended appropriately, you may find that all of the other ingredients are muted in the blend because ginger has such a strong flavor. Similarly, peppermint has a very strong flavor as well. So if you were to put, for instance, an equal amount of peppermint and an equal amount of calendula flowers, I would not taste the calendula at all because of the volatility of the essential oils in peppermint. So in blending, you want to not just, after you've decided what your intent is for your tea blend, the energetics of it, the purpose of it, then you also want to consider the proportions of the ingredients to make sure that you get the taste or flavor that you're looking for. So that's another thing that you want to consider. And once you put them together, the funnest part of all is tasting it, right? But what I have here is I've already portioned out what I needed for 4 of the 5, just because I know that I want to have an equal balance between the orange, the ginger, and the peppermint. So that was my goal in creating this. The calendula is really there because of the energy of the flower, and then the lemon balm I have there for the support of the nervous system to make sure I don't over-energize myself in the mornings. So I'm going to pour them into my bowl. And if tea blending is something you want to get into, it's always nice to know where your ingredients come from if you're not growing them yourself. It's nice to know the history of the different ingredients that you're putting into your tea blends. And then also when we talked about the intention of your blend, if you have any additional intentions, such as if you're pouring love into it or you're pouring support, of having those different intentions while literally pouring the herbs into your container, just so that way you know the purpose and you're just confirming the intent of the blend. Now, normally what I would do is I would take a chopstick and I would mix it around, but you have options. You don't necessarily have to use a chopstick. For this, I'm going to use just a lid and I'm going to shake it up. And this is another way that I would mix mine. And I count personally to 100, and that's just my way of making sure that everything is equally distributed and mixed in well together. I do know, because I did use the entire orange slice, that it's going to be not a little sticky or moist because of the inside of the oranges. And I did want that intentionally to make sure that things are equally distributed, equally together, and give it just a bit of moisture for my personal entertainment. Sometimes you just have to switch things up, and that's okay. And then when you're done, open it up, confirm it, and it's just gorgeous. So this is the Winter Sunshine that I created. It is my newest tea blend that I will be selling with the Ginger Tea Company once winter comes in a couple of weeks. It will be a limited time item solely because I use local oranges. So whenever I run out, I run out. But it is also my personal favorite right now for the morning time, because I know those days are getting shorter and I want to make sure that my spirits remain uplifted through all of the hard times. As far as books are concerned, I have been utilizing this book that was given by my teacher, Emily Ruff. It's Bush Medicine of the Bahamas. Although it does talk the first part of the book about folk remedies, folk herbalism in the Bahamas, the second half really is an extensive materia medica of herbs that are found in the Caribbean as a whole, and then it goes into the historic uses of those herbs on the various islands. So me deriving from Barbados, this was important to me, and wanted to make sure that I am learning why I have an affinity to certain herbs and what my ancestors used during their times, and seeing how it relates to current day. But that's all that I have. The last thing that I will say is, when you do go to make your tea, regardless of what you make, it is always ideal to steep it with the lid. So here with the teapot, this one has a lid. And the reason we want to do that is that way we can track those volatile oils to get all of the flavor from the tea blends, as well as those medicinal properties. With peppermint having having volatile essential oils in it, we really want to make sure we can capture all of the qualities of the peppermint. As time progresses, you will notice that if it was to remain open, the potency of the herb would decline once you dry it and process it. If you have it growing in your yard, you can absolutely use fresh peppermint for your tea blends. But if not, and you're using something that's been processed, or you have processed it, you just want to always make sure that when you're storing it or when you're steeping it, that it is with a closed lid to ensure that you get the full flavor of the tea blend. Are there any questions? No? Awesome. Well, I want to thank you for taking some time out to learn about tea blending and a little bit about peppermint. Maggie did do a full materia medica on peppermint, so please, if you want to learn more about it, check out that video that she did on the YouTube page. And otherwise, it was a pleasure speaking about the tea blend and the Winter Sunshine, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.